Peace, I'm Malcolm Jamal Warner, and you are watching HBCUX. Yeah.
Actor, musician, poet, and Grammy Award-winning recording artist Malcolm Jamal Warner brings music and spoken word together.
Poetry is a great platform for me because I'm not a singer. I thank God that I can't sing because if I could, I would probably be out there trying to be a singer. And because that's not my lane, poetry is my lane. Poetry is how I express myself. And I was raised, with the philosophy that to whom much is given, much is required, or much is expected. So I've always taken, my role outside of acting, but my role as, role model, I guess. I'm always uncomfortable with that term, but I've always taken my role as someone who has, the attention and admiration and ear of young people. There's a responsibility that comes with that. And growing up, there was times where I would go to schools and speak to, students, and often they didn't really want to hear what I had to say because, they were listening to Tupac and Big and Snoop, and, those are the guys they wanted to hear from. So I would come to these schools and I would speak on my messages of, positivity, accountability, responsibility of self. And those messages were, deemed corny by these kids. So for a while, it kind of hurt my heart, and I stopped going to speak to kids because they weren't really checking for what I had to say. And then when I found my voice, again through poetry, and realized that I could get those same messages out through poetry in a language that young people would actually perk up and listen to and pay attention to. And that's when I realized that's my thing. That's how I can communicate, my messages through poetry, through spoken word.
More sweat pours down my face as I continue to run at a pace that's got my heart pumping and veins popping, damn near ready to drop this struggle to stay in the game, only stopping to catch my breath for a sec. Oh, it's insane the way I train. Bench pressing hypotheses and philosophies on how to play out this game called life. I squat and do lunges with pressures that weigh a ton on my shoulders, and the older I get, the bolder are my fantasies of how I can win at this. But sometimes I watch my self-esteem slowly steam out past my lips upon exhalation. And since I have yet to be drafted by any of these top religious teams, I replenish my own soul with meditations of honor and praise for the Most High and plenty of thanks for the blessings bestowed. But I try hard to abstain and refrain from this feeling of being owed some type of explanation. God, why give me a mind to choose only to have me compete in this game called life when it's clearly designed for me to lose? I'm almost resigned to accepting that maybe life is simply sudden death in overtime. You ever ponder how at the end of this game called life, there's absolutely nothing you could have done about the outcome? Through conniption fits of frustration, I have screamed at the top of my lungs for reason to believe, for reason to continue to achieve, for reason to conceive of new goals when my frame of mind receives new blows of insecurity and self-doubt. It's wicked. It's almost like I'm addicted to the rush of winning the game, even though the end result is the same for all who get in, whether you're part of a religious team or you just can't seem to fit in. At the end of this game called life, you die. It's like you can never really win. The most you can do is come close. And that consolation prize is growing old and watching all your friends lose right before your very eyes. But when you train to win, When you train to win, the main thing your brain retains is how to sustain that feeling of accomplishment. Too stubborn to face defeat, I gain a new perspective on the game, where the object is to be the best that I can be, to always choose honesty even when no one else is looking, to bookend my life between a self-love and a passion that outlast any seemingly rational thoughts of, I'm gonna die anyway, so what's the difference? No, it's the difference between simply getting by and giving it all you've got every shot you get. There is no rest for the weary, so I run, I lift weights, I train to strengthen my weariness threshold. See, it's only 25% physical. It's really about the 25% mental, the 25% spiritual, the 25% emotional that I need to make sure that I can endure this obstacle course the game of life lays before me. It's like a never-ending boot camp. And when my face is damp from all the blood, sweat, and tears from training all these years, and after I faced each and every one of my fears like a true champ, then and only then will I begin to know that I'm not only living life, I am competing in the game that I have trained myself to win.
The people I try to reach with my poetry are the people who don't like poetry. You may not like poetry, but I guarantee you, you're gonna like this.
Microphone check 1, 2. I'm looking for some new inspiration to elevate my means of communication. Combined with my infatuation with laying lyrics to a track, the way I lay pipe from the back keeps me satiated for a bit. See, I get lit with Mrs. Microphone because it's okay for me to hit. Then I spit the hottest shit that comes from the dome. I can't front, I always feel at home, flirting about a half a foot away. While her smile invites me to say what I wanna. Then I start to sway like Madonna in her virgin days, cause I'm Persian ways of old. To play her right has left me cold. Monogamy with Mrs. Microphone is worth more than all the diamonds and all the gold that would easily make a blue white sing. Mrs. Microphone brings me the type of joy that'll make a crack fiend seem harmless. Without Mrs. Microphone in my world, almost any girl would find me as charmless as the little man inside the boat who was rubbed a little too rough. I broke, snap, crackle, and puff when I'm breathing down your neck on the microphone check. What?
I think this might sound like something about it.
How's this mic sound? Is this thing on?
The way I rise, the way I fall, I'm even cool if I gotta crawl. I'm owning everything, no fear at all. When the haters come round, I'll be like Teflon.